This individual, Dr. Catherine Edmonds, is a first-generation college participant that struggled, if you will, in Algebra 1 in 8th grade. It was the interest and concern of her 10th grade teacher that helped Dr. Edmonds realize her strength in math. After graduating from high school, Dr. Edmonds went to North Carolina A&T State University, Aggie Land, where she graduated with a bachelor's degree in mathematics education. Then she went on to get a master's and her PhD at NC State. Go Wolfpack. Dr. Edmonds has worked at the NC Department of Education with school to turn around and at the UNC system with principal preparation. She is currently the superintendent of Bertie County Schools, where she advocates for students and staff voice and leadership. Welcome to Sports Shop. Dr. Edmonds, what's good? How you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm excited to be a part of the show this morning. This is exciting. And what's so funny is that I speak in front of hundreds of people, thousands, and I'm in a studio with 3 other people, and I'm like nervous.
It's all about the light. It's all about the light. The light's brighter than you think.
Yeah, when that red light come on.
Goodness.
It's small, but it's bright. It's small, but it's bright.
Well, we're very happy to have you as one of our Salute the Champions, and we just jump right into it. Really, you worked in the UNC system with principal preparation in public universities. Why is principal preparation and development so important?
So I'll start with part of my story that you shared about struggling in Algebra 1 when I was in 8th grade. Mm-hmm. And what we know about principalship is that anytime you're going to have reform or an effective school, you have to have a strong leader. Mm-hmm. And so if you're in the principal role, then you're able to work with teachers to help them better support students. So I felt that if I had a stronger principal at the school when I was in 8th grade math and sitting in the back of the class, couldn't see the board, and the teacher didn't say or ask one time, why aren't you doing well in Algebra 1 in 8th grade? Mm-hmm. I could have said, I need to move to the front of the class. I can't see the board. So having a principal and a strong leader in the school has a tremendous impact on how well students perform and how teachers are supported.
Wow. Outstanding.
I think it's incredible that you were able to see that. In 8th grade, when I was in Algebra 1 and I struggled, I never thought it was a leadership issue. I thought it was just like, girl, you better get it together. You're not studying hard enough, or something like that. I think
now in 8th grade, I didn't realize that, but as I went into education, I realized my story and the impact it had on me. That we need students, we need to have teachers and leaders in our school that advocate for kids at all times. Every child should have an adult in a school building that advocates for them. That is a champion for them.
Well, we're talking with Dr. Catherine Edmonds, Superintendent of Bertie County, is one of our Salute the Champions for this year. And, just reading your story, understanding what Salute the Champions is all about, you being in education for as long as you have, I won't tell you age, for as long as you have been, just like I've been in technology for a while. Is there one thing that you probably, as you kind of take a step back and you look and say, when I started in education to where it is now, something that you really just feel passionate that you really want to just get fixed. You want to make sure that you highlight and get fixed.
Yeah. So when I started out as a classroom teacher, you think your impact is very small. I don't know at 22 years old if I really knew the impact that I could have on a child's life. Yeah. But now that I've been in education for quite some time, the thing that I'm most passionate about is that students have a voice in their education, that students have a voice in the educational process. Oftentimes, we don't take time to talk to students to say, how do you feel about your school? How do you feel about the leadership in your school? And I truly believe that every child should have a champion in a school that advocates for them. That is my passion, is putting students first in every decision that we make. And sometimes that can get a little difficult because the politics of education can play a role in that. And so you have to say to yourself, are you looking at longevity in a role like a superintendent's role, or do you want to have the most impact on students while you're there? And sometimes you have to really think that through.
Talk about the difficulty of leadership if they don't understand the diversity from district to district, school to school, county to county, because not understanding the diversity and how that diversity can play into behavior, how people learn, what they do, not understanding that. Talk about, is diversity really a fabric of not higher education, but a fabric of education in our country today? Is it something that's recognized, or is that something we probably should take more account to?
Yeah, so when you look at diversity, you can look at diversity in so many different ways. So are we looking at diversity in terms of geographical areas? We have rural districts, we have large urban districts, and we have districts that are medium sized, and the needs are very different. Are we looking at diversity in terms of race? And there's a study, a young lady at UNC Chapel Hill did a research study about the impact of having at least one African American teacher in your educational career, the impact that has on a student. So we can look at diversity from that perspective as well. And then you have districts like in Bertie County, where we're a large minority district. And so when you look at diversity, we're looking at socioeconomic diversity in our school district. How are we ensuring that every child, regardless of where you live, get the education that you deserve? So yes, diversity is an issue. It needs to be paid attention to. And you hear a lot these days about equity. And so that's something, I think we're recognizing that that's a need.
Right.
Wow.
So how do you put that in your district? When teachers come out of college or they're ready to get their first teaching job, lack of experience may not get them to the point where I have all of these different students and they have to be catered to very different ways. How do you pull that out of a teacher to start looking at diversity from all of those points that you made?
Yeah, so when we have teachers that are coming to our district, and that's why I was so interested in principal preparation. I'm sure you've heard of the Leandro case that's here in North Carolina that's been going on for years. And it was school districts where the students were struggling, and the school districts did not feel they had the resources to support the students in the district. And our Constitution states in North Carolina that it is a constitutional right for our students to have a sound basic education. And so that's why I went into principal prep. And while I was working with that, I started looking at teacher prep, because not only are we getting teachers out of our UNC system schools, but our private schools, we have teachers in Bertie County that are not from the country, because we don't have the supply of teachers that we need to fill every classroom. So now we're looking at non-traditional ways of how do we get teachers into our school district. And we recently received a grant from the State Board of Education, one of 4 districts out of 13 that applied, to look at advanced teaching roles for our teachers in our district and teacher compensation. So currently, as a teacher, if I want to advance or be promoted, then I usually have to go into administration. So assistant principal, principal central office. But what we're looking at is how do we have teachers have a path to promotion in the school, but stay within the classroom. So extending their reach, not just to students in their classroom, but the 3 or 4 teachers they may supervise, while addressing recruitment and retention.
Wow. Wow, we're talking to Dr. Catherine Edmonds, recipient of the Salute the Champions, the 2019 class. And Dr. Edmonds, I'm going to get a little personal here because I'm just give people some feedback. Everybody, you mentioned your 10th grade teacher. Everybody had a mentor or someone that kind of influenced them somewhere along the way that kind of really got you focused on some of the things you wanted to do. Talk about those individuals, if you would, please.
Sure. So I'll have to start with my parents, my mom and dad. My dad, a lot of the skills that he taught us growing up that some, companies call soft skills, like being at work on time. Whatever you do, give it your best. If you're not going to give it your best, then don't do it at all. Always treat others the way you want to be treated. So I would have to start with my parents because I still take those lessons with me. But each step along the way, I've had mentors. Like when I was at Department of Public Instruction, Pat Ashley, a very great mentor of mine. And she taught me a lot of things. Her background was psychology, which is very interesting when you look at education. And now with the socio-emotional needs that we have for students in our district. And, at general administration, I look at my mentors there. So along the way, that would be Dr. Henry Johnson. And I still stay connected with Dr. Johnson to this day. But looking at those that went before me and listening to the lessons that they have to teach. Sometimes we think that people that are older than us, they don't really understand what we're going through today.
Okay.
But sometimes it can keep you from stepping in holes that you otherwise would step in, right? So I've had some great mentors, and I would have to say Dr. Pat Ashley and Dr. Henry Johnson are 2 of my great mentors.
Wow. So I mean, just closing up here, though, you talked about a lot about just advocating for children, and the reason for that. Can you expand on that before we close out this interview?
Yeah. So our children have great talents, and something that we've implemented in Bertie County. Most schools have a student government association, but we taken that a step forward to how do they have impact in their community. So now we have junior board members that were sworn in with our Board of Education, and we have junior commissioners that were sworn in with our commissioners. And so they sit around the table, they give feedback at the meetings, they share, and not just about the school district, but about the county in general.
So they have a voice.
Yes, they have a voice.
Good.
I love it.
Outstanding.
That's outstanding, man. We thank you for joining us. I mean, this was a great conversation. We're going to be talking about education. We're going to talk about sports. We're going to talk about a lot of things during the month of February, during Black History Month. And she'll definitely be joining the class for 2019. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Man.
It's an honor.